If you watched my video about Robin Hood, Everything You Missed, you might remember I pointed out the fact that Disney copied a few scenes from Snow White, The Jungle Book, and Aristocats, putting the same movements in Robin Hood. Disney did this several times, and today I'm going to show you every time Disney copied Disney. More importantly, why did Disney copy Disney? It all started a long time ago, back in 1942, when Disney made Bambi. Well, so the copying started then, not the actual beginning of Disney. Stay with me here, people. We have a little tiny blue bird taking a bath. This was the original time, but just 9 years later in Alice in Wonderland, we have another blue bird taking a bath. The exact same way. And I know some of you here are saying, that's just a coincidence, it's not a copycat. By the end of this video, you too are going to agree with me that these scenes were straight up copies. When all the dogs are trying to escape from Jasper Horace and Cruella de Vil, they manage to sneak onto a transport truck. Now watch this. In the Aristocats, Thomas O'Malley is sneaking the kittens onto a milk truck. And he managed to save the last cat, Mary, the same exact way that Pongo Old Boy managed to save the last puppy, Lucky. Speaking of copycat, Thomas O'Malley had another copycat of his own. When Edgar the butler is trying to kill him, it's all fun and games for O'Malley until he realizes the lunatic is actually trying to kill him. If you look when Edgar pins him against the wall, O'Malley does something you probably saw 100 times before, and you didn't even know it. Well, more like 101 times. When Sergeant Tibbs tries to rescue the puppies, he too gets cornered and does the exact same motion. The dogs get in on the action too. In 1963, little King Arthur gets licked to death by a pack of dogs. Then in 1967's The Jungle Book, Mowgli gets licked to death by a pack of wolves the exact same way. Mowgli's street wolves also lean against a rock, wagging their little tails the same exact way that the three spotted pups are wagging their tails on the chair watching Thunderbolt the cowboy wrestle up some bad guys.
Come on, Thunderbolt!
This is crazy, right? Crazy old Baloo.
Crazy old Maurice.
Crazy old Maurice. Okay, that wasn't a connection. I'm trying to make jokes here. Stay with me. If you're part of my YouTube family, you already know, but Little John had a lot more in common with Baloo than just being a bear. And you won't bear to believe how much Robin Hood borrowed from Jungle Book.
Oh boy.
I'm not sounding the alarm as to why there's so much copying going on just yet. There's a lot more to point out. The elephant in Robin Hood also tried sounding the alarm only to get trunk choked. Sound familiar though? That's what happened in the Jungle Book when the bugler tried to sound the alarm way too soon.
Not now, soldier.
You could cut these two scenes in half and they would line up practically perfect.
Practically perfect in every way.
Now clap your hands because here comes some more. Another dog-cat moment was when Bruno tries to eat the cat Lucifer. Good dog. The cat obviously freaks out, but this is the same freak out from 101 Dalmatians when Sergeant Tibbs dodges the darts from Jasper the exact same way. And even though I'm a dog lover, not a cat lover, shame on Jasper for trying to kill the poor barn cat. Barn cats aren't good for society. Do you realize how many people died from mice? Shame on you, Jasper. And if you're thinking this whack on the head was a copy, then you're catching on to the game. Disney would go on to use the same gag in Sword in the Stone, only this time with a sword instead of a club. And they even recycled the same exact sound effects and the same exact voice. Jumping to our next one. Yeah, I know, I'm loaded with a lot of bad puns today. In Fox and the Hound, we have a squirrel jumping from one tree to another tree. Just like in Sword in the Stone, there's another squirrel that can be seen jumping from one tree to another tree. The exact same way. Then these ducks going into the pond in the movie Bambi are the same exact ducks from Fox and the Hound. They just don't match up perfectly because they flip them horizontally. And yeah, these ducks might be an exact copy, but at least they survived hunting season, unlike Bambi's. Too soon? Sorry, Bambi. The next identical moment we have is Mowgli walking up to a cliff and then throwing a subscribe button off the cliff at a bunch of innocent YouTubers. Click it!
And he said an elephant never forgets.
Just like Christopher Robin's in 1977's Winnie the Pooh, only that time he was throwing Crazy Nate merch. Also, did you know that my Cher smile wristbands glow in the dark? Pretty cool for when you go to the movies. Both these boys also walked off the same log, and I'm not even kidding. Get it? Not? Like they're in the same exact spot. Princess and the Frog decide to jazz up the party, and Louis plays with his fake hair just like Madame Mim from Sword in the Stone. When Aurora wasn't sleeping on the job, her dance routine was the same exact dance routine that Belle and Beast had in Beauty and the Beast. In The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, they had a copycat scene passing the paper back and forth, just like in Jungle Book when Baloo and the monkeys were passing Mowgli back and forth. One movie that you might not have heard about is The Truth About Mother Goose, which was a Disney short directed by Bill Justice and Wolfgang Ritherman. In that short, we have a moment where two knights joust each other, and this is very much like the battle scene in The Sword in the Stone. So much alike, you're gonna think it's the same exact battle. Literally. So why do you think Disney recycled all these scenes? To be cheap? To save time? Or for good luck?
I should have prayed to the ancestors for luck.
How lucky can they be? They're dead.
Or it wasn't copied and I'm just crazy?
I'm not crazy!
So let's not just guess at this situation, we need to dig deeper than just looking at a few scenes and saying, aha, I have an answer. With Disney having over 400 films under their belt, we seem to only be pointing out a small handful of movies that they copied scenes from. It is true that World War II hurt Disney's profits, and Disney also directed a lot of their resources and energy to help win a victory in the war, which they did win. America. However, the movies that we mentioned here today that were known for copying each other took place after the war. So that can't be the reason. Some would say that this is because Disney is cheap and or greedy. This could be true, I don't personally know though, because I don't know their heart.
Cogsworth, have a heart.
But Mr. Walt Disney was dumping a lot of money he made from his movies back into his parks and into new land for the new Disney World. Also, many Disney employees have been on strike before wanting bigger shares of the income because humans are greedy and want more of the pie. Looking at other movies that Disney released in the same time that didn't recycle scenes, it seems that the cost of making movies was gradually going up. Looking at this, they didn't even spend a full $1 million to produce Bambi. Yet Alice in Wonderland, who copied scenes from Bambi, has a budget 3 times the size of Bambi. So what's going on, Alice?
And just what are you?
I'm just a little girl.
Little? Little?
So if anything, some of these movies with the copied scenes were literally more expensive than the original ones that didn't have any scenes copied from. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Now I know this still doesn't rule out the possibility that they reuse scenes to save money. Once people that worked on a movie start to realize how much money that movie actually made, then they think all of a sudden they deserve more money. And that's funny because when a movie company loses like $20 million on a movie, you don't see the same employees lining up saying, let me give you some money since you lost it all in the last movie. Yeah, no, they only want the rewards, they don't want the risk.
Forgive me a cruel chuckle.
Alright, back to reality. So even though the cost to make these movies went up, it's possible that they had to cut the cost in other areas just to keep their budgets reasonable and not going through the roof. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Robert Downey Jr. allegedly made $500,000 for the first movie, Iron Man, with Marvel, of course. Fast forward to Endgame, he expectedly made over $75 million for his role in that movie. Now, I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I don't think anyone else could have been Iron Man. That's not what I'm saying, but you see the problem here. Everyone wants more money. Everybody, not just the actors. Another reason Disney was fighting their need to increase budgets for their films is around the same time of The Sword in the Stone and Jungle Book, Disney was actively purchasing land for what is now known as Disney World. The Jungle Book release date was the same year that they actually broke down. They broke down in Disney World, so they just built a park. So then what's another reason for all this copycatting in all the movies? Follow me, we're gonna go deep into the rabbit hole. Let's look at all the movies that we mentioned here today and find out what they have in common. First, 101 Dalmatians, it's a lot of people that's involved in making the movie, I know that. But I want to look at one person specifically in particulars. That's Wolfgang Ritherman, or known simply as Wooly. He was the director for the movie, and in fact, here's the crazy part. He was directly tied to almost every single movie we mentioned today. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, directing animator. Alice in Wonderland 1951 version, directing animator. Aristocats, director. Cinderella, directing animator. Then there's Fox and the Hound, he was the co-producer. For The Jungle Book, he was the director. For Pinocchio, he was the animation director. He directed Robin Hood and The Sword in the Stone and The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. He was also the sequence director for Sleeping Beauty and an animator in Snow White, literally the first movie Disney launched. Then the two that you probably haven't heard of, maybe you did, congratulations! The Truth About Mother Goose and Goliath 2. He directed both of them. Now if you're taking notes like Nerdy Nate, you'll probably realize that I didn't mention Princess and the Frog or Beauty and the Beast. I'm willing to say that Princess and the Frog probably was not a recycled scene. I know some of you might be shocked to hear me say that, and maybe it was just a coincidence. In fact, it's definitely not a coincidence, it's definitely an Easter egg. He sings about the witchcraft the moment he shows off the hair.
Odie, she the voodoo queen of the bayou. She got magic and spells. All kind of hoodoo.
And Madame Nim was the witch from The Sword in the Stone who has the same style hair.
Say, lad, did you know that I can make myself uglier yet?
Well, that would be some trick.
Want to bet? Boo!
Also, I don't see Wooly connected to Princess of the Frog anywhere in the credits. Then there's Beauty and the Beast. What about that movie? He wasn't really a part of that one either. So then what happened? According to Gary Trisdale, the co-director of Beauty and the Beast, they reused the dance scene from Sleeping Beauty for Beauty and the Beast because they were running out of time. So they rotoscoped Aurora as Belle and Prince Charming as Beast. But then Floyd Norman, who was also a part of making these movies, claimed that Wooly duplicates scenes as his signature and not to save time. Floyd doubles down on this little theory by saying, and I quote, "It's actually harder and takes longer to redraw an existing sequence." Have you ever heard the expression that you can't have your cake and eat it too? So the Disney crew here are basically saying that they recycled scenes to save time, and then they are also saying in the same moment that it's because it's a form of expressing a signature, even though it takes more time to express that signature. So which is it, a time saver or a time waster? Because you can't have both. In conclusion, it seems straight from the mouths of the people who actually worked on these movies, we have our answers. One reason was because it saved time. The other reason was because there's a way for Wooly to express himself. But if you're one of those people that think rotoscoping takes longer than just drawing a new scene from scratch, then I have some beachfront property for you in Oklahoma. Clearly, the real reason here is to save time. And if you don't know what rotoscoping is,
rotoscoping was made for that purpose. Technically, rotoscoping is shooting live action film and then tracing each frame onto animation paper. And then those drawings would be used as reference. And the point of it, of course, is that they're just using it for the suggestions of ideas that they can get from that. It doesn't mean that they would be tracing every arm movement and leg movement that he did. What they'd be doing is looking at the whole general spirit of his movements and any ideas that he might unconsciously suggest.
Now you're welcome to take this information and think up your own conclusion. I know, crazy thought, thinking for yourself. But for me, it clearly shows that this is a method of saving time. And when making a movie, like it or not, time is money. Cha-ching! And I should also say that I don't think Disney trying to save money and making a movie magically makes them evil. It's common sense, people. If they spent all their money making the movies instead of the parks, Disney World would look more like the fair from Toy Story instead of the happiest place on earth. Thank you to my members for supporting the channel. Tell me what movie you want to talk about next. Subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. And remember, most importantly of all, let's share a smile. They are contagious.